Look at your hands for a moment. Now listen to me carefully. Everything you have ever touched, everything you have ever built, everything you have ever survived, started as a belief. Before there was money, there was belief. Before there was strategy, there was belief. Before there was strength, courage, or confidence, there was belief. And the reason some of us are stuck today is not because we lack talent, not because we lack opportunity, but because somewhere along the way, we stopped believing. I came to tell somebody tonight, your life didn't collapse because you weren't capable. It stalled because you let doubt sit where belief used to live. Belief is not loud. Belief is not flashy. Belief doesn't always shout. Sometimes belief whispers, get up one more time. And if you can believe when the numbers don't add up, believe when the door stays closed, believe when your past keeps knocking, then hear me clearly. Belief will move what logic cannot move, heal what time could not heal, and unlock what fear tried to keep sealed. Tonight, we are not talking about hype. We are talking about power. We are talking about the kind of belief that changes how you walk, how you speak, how you fight for your future. Because when belief rises, everything else has to respond. Belief is the foundation of every breakthrough because nothing in your life rises higher than what you believe is possible. Before doors open in the natural, something must open in the spiritual and the mental. Long before the promotion, the healing, the restoration, or the victory shows up in your hands, it must first settle in your heart. That is why some people work harder than everyone else and still stay stuck. Because effort without belief is like building on sand. The structure looks strong for a moment, but when pressure comes, it collapses. You don't step into new territory by accident. You step into it because somewhere inside you, you decided it was reachable. Every breakthrough you admire in others was once an invisible decision they made when no one was clapping, when no one was validating them, when nothing in their environment agreed with them. Belief is not proven by applause, it is revealed in isolation. It's easy to believe when the doors are open, but real belief is forged when the door is locked and you still knock like you belong on the other side. Many people are praying for change while protecting the same beliefs that created their limitations. You cannot ask God for a new future while holding on to an old mindset. Breakthroughs don't begin when circumstances shift, they begin when conviction shifts. The moment you start believing that you are more than what happened to you, more than what they said about you, more than the season you are in, that moment something breaks internally, and when it breaks inside, it eventually breaks outside. Belief gives you permission to try again after failure embarrassed you. It is belief that tells you to stand back up when logic says you should stay down. Logic looks at history, but belief looks at potential. Logic measures where you've been, but belief declares where you're going. And every major breakthrough requires you to offend your logic at some point, because logic only works with what already exists, but belief reaches for what has not yet appeared. Some of you didn't lose your breakthrough because you weren't gifted, you lost it because you stopped believing in your own assignment. Life hit you, disappointment drained you, delays discouraged you, and slowly your belief began to shrink. You still showed up, but you no longer expected anything to change. That's the most dangerous place to live. Not broken, not tired, but convinced that nothing better is coming. But hear this clearly, belief can be rebuilt. It does not require perfection. It requires decision. The moment you decide that your past will not have the final word, belief begins to rise again. And when belief rises, it realigns your posture, your prayers, your patience, and your persistence. Breakthrough doesn't respond to desperation, it responds to belief. When belief becomes the foundation again, everything you build on top of it has a chance to finally stand. Doubt is not your enemy, because doubt is a visitor that shows up whenever you step into unfamiliar territory. The moment you try something new, reach for something higher, or challenge what you've always known, doubt will knock on the door of your mind. That doesn't mean you're weak. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're growing. Doubt only appears where movement exists. It never bothers people who are comfortable staying the same. The real danger is not doubt itself, but unchallenged doubt. When doubt goes unanswered, it begins to speak louder than your purpose. It starts as a question, but if you let it linger, it turns into a conclusion. At first it asks, "What if you can't?" Then it declares, "You never could." And before you realize it, doubt has rewritten your story without your permission. Everyone who has ever achieved something meaningful had to learn how to walk forward while doubt walked beside them. Courage is not the absence of doubt. Courage is the decision to keep moving even when doubt is screaming in your ear. If doubt disqualified people, no dream would ever be fulfilled. Doubt stood in front of every miracle, every breakthrough, every life-changing decision. The difference is that some people listened to it and others talked back. You challenge doubt by reminding it of what it forgot. You remind it of what you survived, what you learned, and how far you've already come. Doubt only shows you what could go wrong, but it never shows you what could go right. It magnifies risk and minimizes resilience. It tells you about the fall, but never about the strength it will take to get back up. When you don't challenge doubt, it convinces you to stay in places that no longer fit who you are becoming. Many people mistake doubt for wisdom. They call it being realistic, being careful, being mature. But there is a difference between discernment and fear in disguise. Discernment seeks clarity so it can move forward. Fear seeks excuses so it can stay still. Unchallenged doubt will always disguise itself as logic, because logic feels safer than faith. But safe choices don't always lead to fulfilled lives. Doubt will try to remind you of every mistake you've ever made. It will replay your failures and use your past as evidence that your future shouldn't change. But your past is not proof that you should quit. It is proof that you can endure. If you're still standing after what you've been through, doubt already lost more battles than it wants to admit. The moment you stop letting doubt have the final word, its power begins to shrink. It may still speak, but it no longer leads. Belief doesn't silence doubt by force, it outgrows it through persistence. And when you learn to challenge doubt instead of surrendering to it, you realize something powerful. Doubt never came to stop you. It came to test whether you were ready to keep going anyway. What you believe shapes what you tolerate, because belief quietly sets the standard for how you allow life to treat you. You don't wake up one day and suddenly settle for less. It happens slowly, one compromise at a time, when belief starts shrinking and expectation starts lowering. You begin to accept situations you once would have challenged, relationships you once would have questioned, and limitations you once would have refused, not because you lost ability, but because you lost conviction. When belief is strong, your tolerance is low. You don't argue about your worth. You don't negotiate your calling, and you don't beg for spaces that were never meant to hold you. Strong belief gives you an inner boundary. It tells you, this is not enough for who I am becoming. And even when leaving hurts, even when staying feels safer, belief pushes you toward growth instead of comfort. But when belief weakens, tolerance expands in the wrong direction. You start explaining disrespect instead of addressing it. You normalize stress instead of correcting imbalance. You convince yourself that survival is success, even when your soul knows you were created for more than just getting by. Low belief doesn't always look like quitting. Sometimes it looks like staying too long in places that drain you because you no longer believe you deserve better. What you tolerate will always teach people how to treat you, and it will also teach you how to see yourself. Every time you accept less than your worth, your belief erodes a little more. Not because you're incapable, but because repetition has power. If you keep living beneath your potential, your mind will eventually call that level normal. And once something feels normal, it stops feeling wrong, even when it is. Many people say they believe in themselves, but their tolerance tells a different story. They say they believe in growth, but they tolerate stagnation. They say they believe in peace, but they tolerate chaos. They say they believe in purpose, but they tolerate distractions that steal their time and energy. Belief is not proven by what you say in public. It is revealed by what you allow in private. Raising your belief will automatically raise your standards. You won't need to announce it or defend it. Your decisions will speak for you. You will walk away sooner, speak up quicker, and wait less for permission. Not because you became arrogant, but because you finally remembered your value. Belief doesn't make you harsh. It makes you honest about what no longer fits. There are things in your life right now that remain only because you've tolerated them. And the moment belief rises, those things will feel uncomfortable, out of place, and impossible to ignore. That discomfort is not a sign that you're wrong. It's a sign that you're growing. As belief strengthens, tolerance realigns. You stop settling, stop shrinking, and stop surviving, and you start demanding a life that matches what you truly believe you were created to live. Belief grows in action, not in comfort, because comfort never asks belief to prove itself. Comfort keeps everything familiar, predictable, and safe, but it also keeps belief small. You don't discover how strong your belief is while sitting still. You discover it when you move forward with shaky hands and an uncertain heart. Belief is not strengthened by waiting for confidence. It is strengthened by acting before confidence arrives. Many people think belief will grow once everything makes sense, once the fear disappears, or once the timing feels right. But belief doesn't wait for perfect conditions. If it did, nothing new would ever be born. The truth is, clarity often comes after obedience, not before it. The moment you take a step, belief stretches. The moment you take another step, belief adapts. Action teaches belief how to breathe in unfamiliar territory. Comfort feels good, but it slowly trains you to avoid risk. It convinces you that staying the same is safer than becoming more. And over time, comfort dulls your courage. You begin to confuse peace with passivity and rest with retreat. But belief was never designed to grow in environments where it is never challenged. Muscles only strengthen when resistance is applied, and belief is no different. Every time you act in spite of fear, belief gains evidence. Not evidence from other people's opinions, but evidence from your own experience. You start to realize that you are more resilient than you thought, more capable than you imagined, and stronger than you believed. Action doesn't eliminate fear. It teaches you that fear doesn't get to decide. And each time you choose action, belief becomes bolder. There will always be reasons to stay comfortable. The timing won't feel right, the resources won't seem enough, and the outcome won't be guaranteed. But belief was never built on guarantees. It was built on trust. Trust that growth is worth the risk. Trust that you will learn as you go, and trust that even if you stumble, you will not be destroyed. Comfort promises safety, but belief promises expansion. Some people are waiting to feel ready before they move, but readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. You don't become ready by thinking about it longer. You become ready by stepping into it and letting belief catch up with your obedience. The first step may be small, awkward, and uncomfortable, but it carries more power than 1,000 intentions that never leave your mind. When you choose action, belief begins to transform. It stops being an idea and starts becoming an identity. You no longer just believe in possibilities, you begin to believe in yourself. And once belief is reinforced through action, comfort loses its grip. You realize that growth feels better than safety, purpose feels better than ease, and progress feels better than standing still. That is how belief matures, not in stillness, not in safety, but in the courage to move anyway. Your environment can challenge your belief, but it cannot define it, because belief was never meant to be borrowed from surroundings. Environments speak loudly. They tell you what is normal, what is possible, and what is expected. They shape conversations, limit imagination, and set invisible ceilings. If you're not careful, you will start measuring your future by what you see around you instead of what you carry within you. But just because something is common where you are does not mean it is correct for where you are going. Many people grow up in environments that teach them to think small, dream cautiously, and expect little. Not because the people around them are evil, but because limitation has been passed down so long it feels like wisdom. Survival becomes the goal, not fulfillment. And if you let your environment define your belief, you will inherit fears that were never meant to be yours and limits that were never assigned to your life. Your environment may challenge your belief by constantly reminding you of what hasn't worked before. It may highlight failure, scarcity, and disappointment. It may surround you with voices that speak doubt louder than hope. But belief is not sustained by agreement, it is sustained by conviction. There are moments when belief must stand alone, unsupported by evidence, applause, or encouragement. That solitude does not weaken belief, it refines it. History is filled with people who were born into limiting environments, but refused to let those conditions name them. They did not deny where they came from. They simply refused to let it determine where they were going. They learned how to listen without absorbing, how to observe without accepting, and how to remain grounded without being trapped. Belief gave them the ability to be present in their environment without being shaped by it. If your belief depends on external conditions, it will collapse the moment conditions change. But when belief is internal, it becomes portable. You can carry it into hostile rooms, unfamiliar seasons, and uncomfortable transitions. Environments change, people shift, and circumstances fluctuate, but belief rooted within you stays steady. That kind of belief does not require permission to grow. Sometimes the environment will try to shrink you back to who you used to be. It will remind you of old mistakes, old labels, and old roles. But belief allows you to evolve without apology. You don't need to argue with your environment, you need to outgrow it. Growth will eventually make certain spaces feel too small, certain conversations feel repetitive, and certain expectations feel irrelevant. The goal is not to escape your environment in bitterness, but to rise above it in clarity. You don't have to reject people to reject limitations. When belief is strong, you can love where you are while still knowing you are meant for more. And once belief is no longer defined by your surroundings, you stop asking permission to expand. You begin to walk with quiet confidence, knowing that while your environment may challenge your belief, it will never have the authority to define it. When belief aligns with persistence, results become inevitable because consistency gives belief a body to live in. Belief on its own is powerful, but belief that keeps showing up, keeps trying, and keeps pushing forward becomes unstoppable. Persistence is belief refusing to quit. It is belief saying, I may be tired, but I'm not done. And when those two walk together, resistance eventually breaks. Many people believe for a moment, but they retreat when progress feels slow. They believe when the door cracks open, but they stop knocking when it doesn't swing wide. Persistence is what keeps belief alive when emotions fluctuate. Feelings change daily, but persistence anchors belief beyond mood, motivation, or momentary success. It's easy to believe when results are quick. It takes persistence to believe when silence stretches and answers delay. Results are not always immediate, but they are always instructional. Persistence teaches belief how to mature. It shifts belief from excitement to endurance, from passion to patience. Anyone can start with belief, but persistence determines who finishes. Every breakthrough has a waiting room, and persistence decides who stays long enough to be called next. There will be days when belief feels weak, not because it disappeared, but because it's being tested. Persistence doesn't demand that belief feels strong, it only demands that belief remains present. You keep going even when confidence wavers, even when support fades, even when progress seems invisible. That quiet determination is often what separates transformation from regret. Many people quit too close to their breakthrough. They mistake resistance for rejection and delay for denial. But resistance is often proof that you're pressing against something that matters. If it were insignificant, there would be no opposition. Persistence reads resistance as confirmation that belief is aimed at something real, something valuable, something worth fighting for. When belief and persistence align, your actions begin to compound. Small steps taken repeatedly create momentum. Effort that once felt heavy begins to feel natural. What once required discipline becomes habit, and habit becomes identity. You don't just believe you can change, you live like someone who expects change to arrive. Persistence also teaches you how to trust the process without needing to control the outcome. You learn to plant without panicking, to water without worrying, and to wait without weakening. Belief gives you vision, but persistence gives you stamina. Together, they allow growth to happen beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. Eventually, results show up not because you were lucky, but because you were loyal to the vision, to the work, and to the belief that refused to let go. When belief aligns with persistence, quitting stops being an option, and inevitability takes its place. Not because the journey was easy, but because you decided that no matter how long it took, you were going to see it through. Hear me now, and hear me clearly. Belief is not a feeling you wait for, it's a decision you stand on. When doubt shows up, you don't bow. When fear speaks, you don't retreat. When delay tests you, you don't quit. You keep believing when it's quiet. You keep moving when it's hard. You keep standing when it hurts. Because the same belief that carried you through the storm is the belief that will carry you into the breakthrough. And when it finally happens, you won't say, "I got lucky." You'll say, "I believed and I refused to let go."